give it a few minutes, maybe around 8, and then we'll go ahead and start the program. Dawn?
Heavenly Father, we're thankful for the freedom we have to pray to you without being bothered by anyone from outside. We're thankful for the many freedoms we have in our beautiful country. Among those, we are able to assemble without being harassed. We're thankful that we can elect our representative leaders, and we are thankful that we can assemble here. We are thankful also, Father, for all those that made this event a successful, beautiful operation where we can also say that it's going to be very delicious. Father, we know that there are our neighbors at this time that are reeling from the storms that have brought devastation, loss of life and homes, particularly those in Kentucky and Missouri, and we ask that you comfort them. Father, we ask that you bless our world with peace and love, starting with our own community. As we think about this weekend, Father, we know that there are those that are in harm's way for safety and freedom. And we ask that you put a shield of safety around them. And we know that there are those that have given the ultimate sacrifice for all the freedoms that we have mentioned. God bless us all. Amen.
And if there are elected officials, we'll go ahead, we'll let you eat first, because we know that you guys will have to finish up to start our program. So if everybody would just wait for the officials to get up there and then follow it. Thank you.
Open on. Oh, Lord.
Six figures of that or better. Come out.
It's kind of hard to say. And then it's just
I watched the boat fail. I was like, oh, yeah, that's okay. It's not in there right now. Like that, but it feels like the market. That's been great. And then I think there's context for it and there's the overall movement yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. And then we also look at our status, like still we actually are struggling with an issue that we actually have going on. It's going to be more federally related, but FHA is softening out. And at least the homeowners really bear the weight there. Ones that were not box builders in Tennessee, a lot of their profits and a lot of it is going to
It looks like even Martellus and ITIN. So that's not like ones here that are got more basically right. It's effective.
In the version of comes down and how I read words, I saw it in there. It would be and then it has to be that thing that's focused for what it's easier to have whether interest rates. So
That's one thing that I've been talking to legislators. It would flood the market.
Yeah, it's, it's crazy. We are actually looking at natural just still under average for living and a little bit still on housing we're living.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you gotta do
Now there's
Yes, sir. The traffic. Really. It's 5 years. It's already out there.
Why? Because you're also can't do So.
Well, yeah, and that's what y'all need to start.
Okay, everyone, we'll go ahead and get started. Good morning again. I hope breakfast was good. We would like to thank our sponsor, Security Code Savings Bank, for this event. They've been a long-time sponsor, and without them, we could not put this event on. So thank you, Security Code. I would also like to say a special thank you to Midlothian for providing the sound for us. And I would also like to thank our panel for being here today. We have Senator Janice Bowling, Representative Paul Sherrill, Warren County Executive Terry Bell, and McMinnville Mayor Carl Chastain. Thank you for being here today. We also have Mr. Tanner Cox, a field representative, Senator Haggerty, with us today. There you go, right in the middle. And I'd also like to take a moment to recognize someone who has become a true fixture in this event, Mr. John Carter. Years, maybe more, he's done this, and we really appreciate it. And with that, I will turn it over to him. There are some cards on your table. If we have time at the end, we will take audience questions. Jackie, if you'll raise your hand. If you have a question, write it down, get it to Jackie, and she will get it to us. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning. I am John Horton. I'm very happy to be here again moderating this event. Really appreciate everyone that brings this together. The food's great. The room is fantastic. And we appreciate all these officials being here to talk to the community. And I think it's an important learning event for all of us. So I'm happy we're all here, and I'm happy to be a part of it. We'll start as per usual, sort of down the line with sort of a state of your respective areas. So, Representative Sherrill, what's sort of the state of the House of Representatives right now, and how do you see the 43rd District? What are the challenges and what are the solutions?
Well, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I'm State Representative Paul Sherrill, represent the 43rd District, all of Warren County and all of White County. And, it's always a privilege and an honor to be here with you all folks today to participate in this and work. So I would say probably the biggest challenge that we're facing probably is probably crime. And we need to work more on trying to do more to fight crime. And I think that we have passed legislation that will give our judges more power to keep some of these people that's committing crimes in jail and not let them get bond and get out of jail. So the more we can do to support that will help us in our community.
All right, so thank you. Senator Bowling, I know you had told me before we got started that you had something that's a little unusual coming up that you wanted to sort of educate us on. If you want to go ahead and do that.
Well, actually, can you hear, did you have it just where it was supposed to be and I moved it?
Just slide them to you.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, it sounds like you can hear me better now. I just appreciate the opportunity to be here as well. And I was really excited last night when Jenna called me and told me that it was 7:30 and not 7 o'clock. Because I got to sleep 15 minutes longer until I'm in Tennessee last night. But also, before we get started, if you'll indulge me just a minute, and I was talking with Gary earlier, this time last year, Phyllis had been the one that had contacted me, and she was helping to put this together. And she was such an integral part of McMinnville and Warren County. And I just would like y'all to join me in just saying thank you, Lord, for Phyllis and for all that she meant to this community and for all that Gary continues to me, and that we would continue to pray for Gary, because this is rough for anybody that loses their spouse. And so I just couldn't help but think about this as we were preparing for this, that it was this time last year she would call and say, well, if you need anything, you got to be there, blah, 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 blah. So it was just typically Phyllis taking care of business. It just kind of converted. I think in serving you all in Tennessee, that in Nashville, that's one of the most important parts is to remember that we're not just counties, and I have 6 counties, but it's the people in the counties, and it's the uniqueness of each county. And so my concern with the Tennessee General Assembly, though, is particularly in the Senate, is that we stay on task. Agriculture, education, and transportation. Those are the 3 mandates that are on our state seal. Those are the things we're really supposed to be involved with. And sometimes it seems like we stray from our mission statement, if you will, and we don't need to go to Nashville to see how many laws we can put in the book. We need to go up there and make sure how much freedom we continue to allow to the people of each county and of the state of Tennessee. And what I was going to talk about to that end, which I will do after we talk with the mayors here, is constitutional amendments. Did you all know that on November the 3rd, 2026, the election year for the governor, there will be constitutional amendments on the ballot? How many of you already knew that? A few? And you need to get a life. I don't know. But the fact is, what I've done is I've brought those 3 constitutional amendments, and so when it's my turn, I will share with you what they're going to be, because oftentimes when they're on the ballot at the last minute, people say, I don't even know what it means, I don't know what it's about. And it's important when we add something, not in the Green Book, we're putting this in the Constitution of the state of Tennessee. And so I would be really honored to share them with you and to answer any questions you might have preemptively about that election of 2026.
All right, Senator Bowling's put down a cliffhanger, so we're going to come back to that. We're going to talk about this. Mayor Bell, if you could talk about opportunities and challenges facing the county right now, what you see on the horizon, and we'll ask Mayor Chastain the same questions.
Okay. And first off, I just want to thank everybody for having me here this morning. This is a good event to have the public here and inform them. Of course, everybody knows we've got some challenges in the county. The county's growing. Last month, we had the County Powers Act, which we tried to pass to keep them operating going in the Dibble area, which was unfortunate. We weren't able to pass that. But some of the challenges facing Warren County, we're growing. We're growing at an extremely fast rate. And the community is going to have to decide. We don't want to take people's freedoms, but we're going to have some regulation to control a little growth, because it's exploding. And that's what's happening in our rural areas. And it's like the rock quarry coming in, those people in that community feel they're devastated. We weren't able to get that done. And I looked at it at a point, and I asked a lot of people. A lot of people said that we were trying to take their freedom. We weren't. We want you to do whatever you need to do. But when you affect so many people, They talk about they could go down 100 feet out there in the dip area to get that rock. So there's gonna be a 100-foot deep hole out there next to the creeks that we have in Warren County. So that's gonna be some of the challenges that Warren County faces, and you as the voters are gonna have to decide, how do we handle that? How do we control that? Because government has to step in this instant because we do not step into private transactions when real estate property changes. So we have no zoning in the county, and we have no power to do that. And that's just one of the challenges I see facing Warren County. Probably the most challenging thing we got coming forward.
All right, thank you, sir. Mayor Chastain, second question.
There is a lot of positive going on in the city limits right now. Back at the 2020 election, one of the biggest points that was asked of all the municipal candidates was getting the historic Blue Building off the city's books. There had been a number of studies, there had been a number of ideas about what could be done with that property. And after the 2020 election, within months of the elections in that November, we had a plan in place and were successfully able to sell that property to an investment group. And I'm proud to say that that property is about to be open for business at the middle part of this year, provide short-term rentals as well as the townhomes that are on the back of the property. So it's a beautiful property. I'm sure by now everybody has seen that, and we're hoping that that will be a fixture downtown. Aside from that, we're doing a lot of street and sidewalk rehabilitation. We are doing some stormwater studies to help find the worst of the areas that we have in the city limits and help mitigate some of the stormwater issues that we have. And then we are in the pre-construction phase, about to start on a totally new rebuild of our water treatment facility here in McMinnville. I would say probably the biggest challenge that McMinnville has right now is exactly what Mayor Bell said. It's going to be space. We have an influx of people coming to McMinnville and Warren County from outside, from larger cities, even out of state. And from a housing standpoint, there are challenges for that. From a utility standpoint, water, sewer, other utilities, we're going to have to do something to address those issues as more and more people express interest in and come to live in McMinnville.
All right, thank you very much. We'll go back to Representative Cheryl. Representative Cheryl, having heard from the county and city mayor, could you talk about how your office collaborates with local governments to ensure that local needs and state policies stay in alignment with one another? Yes, sir.
I try my best to reach out to either the mayor, county executive from the office in Nashville and ask them what kind of legislation do we need to carry in Nashville to help Warren County. So I hope that I do that in a way that benefits the county, and if they tell me things that they need, and we try to work together to make things better for the people in Warren County.
Communication with these elected officials.
Yes, sir.
And your other constituents.
That's sort of my first priority that I do when I'm carrying legislation in Nashville.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, sir, well, everybody's ready. Let's learn about constitutional amendments.
Oh, everybody's so excited. No, but it is an important thing. And I thought, rarely do we get this many people, and congratulations again. This is an awesome crowd to have this early in the morning, and people who are really engaged and involved. All right, there's 3 possibilities that you will be allowed to vote for in November the 3rd in 2026. Number 1, this says the constitutional amendment to prohibit a state property tax. Did you know we don't already have that in our Constitution? Since 1949, we have never charged a state property tax. But prior to that, they did. And a lot of states do put property taxes on your property. And would you all, how many in this room want us to make sure that the state can't do that? Raise your hand. My hand is up there for sure. The new proposed constitutional amendment is headed to voters seeking to ensure a state property tax can never be implemented by a future General Assembly. Tennessee's not had one since 1949. The constitutional amendment would protect Tennessee taxpayers by entirely eliminating the option for a state property tax to ever be imposed on Tennessean skin. Tennessee does not like to tax production. And when you own land, that's production. We do like to tax consumption. And that way we have the state sales tax. And the sales tax, though, also goes for your city and your county. And just speaking, excuse me, of that particular tax, when Bredesen was governor, Tennessee was going through an economic depression. The whole nation was, about 2008. And he changed the formulation for the sales tax. Right now, the state sales tax, there was a percentage that went, it's collected at the local level. It has to go to the state, and the state would send back a portion to the city, to the county, and then keep a smaller portion for the state. And that's essentially what ran out with that, and licenses or whatever, are the different income for the state and local and the counties. So when he changed it to give the larger portion to the state, because they were running out of money, excuse me, and when he did that, it worked without emergency. But then they continued to do it. And so last year, I had a bill that was going to completely restore that, so that the old formulation would come back to the state and local. And that would help you, because that's where the immediate needs are. When you need to do roads and schools and things, you need that money at the state, and at the local level. And we were, thank you. And so when we tried to do that, another bill was put forward that did it incremental. And when it's incremental, it's really not being the benefit we need immediately. Because right now, Ward County is growing, but guess what? Most counties in Middle Tennessee are growing. Most towns are growing. And we need the ability for the local people. So I'm going to see if we can accelerate that restoration of the amount of tax, sales tax. And but this constitutional amendment says that while local governments can tax your property, the state government does not and will not. And so if you're in favor of that, say amen. And if you're not, say oh me. Next, so that's one that will be on the thing. The next one is Marcy's Law, which expands victims' rights. Tennessee crime victims are not given the same amount of protection as the convicted criminals. Marcy's Law seeks to ensure that victims have equal access to justice. This proposed constitutional amendment would establish clear and enforceable constitutional rights for victims of crime, including the right to be heard, the right to be informed, the right to be treated with fairness, dignity, and respect through the judicial process. Named after Marcy Lee Nicholas, it's part of a nationwide effort to support crime victims and prevent further trauma. Marcy was murdered in 1983 by her ex-boyfriend, who stalked and killed her while she was a student at the University of California in Santa Barbara. Marcy's family ran into the man who murdered Marcy a week after her death. As they were returning from her funeral, they went by the grocery store, and he was there in the grocery store. And it just traumatized them, to say the least. But remember, you're innocent till proven guilty. And in California, they allowed him to be out on bond almost immediately, and before the victim had even been buried. Marcy's Law seeks to ensure devastating and traumatic experiences like this never happen to victims in Tennessee. So this bill, while it sounds really good up front, there's some things I would love to hear some ideas from law enforcement people, because I can see where you use words like you've got to be treated with fairness, dignity, and respect. Those are very subjective. And, one person might think that it's not fair, or it's not just, or it's not respect. And that's I hate to put subjective words in the Constitution. I think it could be a catch-22. While I agree with the overall idea here that yes, victims certainly should have some rights, the way this is codified in the Constitution, I'm not sure. I would love to hear if there's anyone here with a strong opinion one way or the other. You want to talk to me privately? And some of the law enforcement people might. And so that was number 2. Number 3 is denying bail for violent crimes. This amendment would expand the judge's ability to deny bail for certain violent crimes when it is in the best interest of public safety. Current law limits judges' ability to deny bail except for the first-degree murder charges. If ratified by voters, the measure would add the following criminal charges that could be denied bail. Violent offenses of terrorism. I think we all would agree that those people should not be out of bail if you know they were involved. But this is the catch-22. These people are being charged with it. And so when they're charged, are they guilty yet? They're still innocent until proven guilty. But they would be denied bail. Violent offenses of terrorism, second-degree murder, aggravated rape, grave torture. Then it goes on to say it would also allow the judges to deny bail for violent offenses that would require the defendant, if convicted, to serve at least 85% of their entire sentence under the state's truth in sentencing law. So if these are serious crimes, if you will, and I think, and some of the law people might correct me here, but I think there are about 400 different offenses that could fall into that.
There have been several added in the last couple of years that had higher sentence release eligibility. I can say that.
So they would be, so if, when you get all of those, that the judge would have the discretion, and still, this is not mandating. This is giving the judge discretion. Under the measure, judges can only deny bail when the proof is evident of the presumption of guilt is great. The reasoning for denying bail must also be put into the record. So when they're recording this, the judge has to say why he denied bail. So it becomes part of a record for that they did. Those are the 3 things you're going to have to vote on in a year and a half. And you can think about it, because on first blush, you say, well, yeah. Then you think about it, but what about this circumstances? And then I beg your pardon for accusing you of this preemptively, but then you begin to sound like a lawyer. And the lawyer should have laughed on that one. But they second guess themselves, and they seem to have these internal discussions of, but if this happens, but what about if it's this way? So you're back and forth looking at the different options. But are there any questions from anybody about the one with Marcy's Law, expanding the victim's rights, denying bail for violent crimes, or constitutional amendment to prohibit a state property tax? Of those 3, let me have a show of hands if this is your favorite one. Constitutional amendment to prohibit a state property tax. Expanding victims' rights. Denying bail for violent crimes. I think that 2 of them, obviously, are more concrete, and you can kind of see how they would work. The other one has some fairness, dignity, that can be in the eyes of the beholder, and then that could just open up more litigation. And certainly we don't want to be proposing that. I totally agree with the expressed intent. I'm just not certain I agree with how it's being done. But we will see it on the ballot, and people come and say, have you seen that constitutional amendment? I can't make heads or tails out of it. And so now when you're visiting with other people from different counties or different towns, you'll be able to explain these 3 constitutional proposals to them, because you just had a short tutorial this morning. Then back to just regular things in general, I agree with the representative here, Representative Cheryl, that our biggest advocate in each county are the people that you have elected. You all call us, and you're welcome to call us when they come to us and say, we're going to need your help, and this is how. Then we are very responsive immediately and do what we can do, the way we can do it, to help Warren County and to help McMinnville in every way possible. So I appreciate the honor of serving you and be glad to answer any other questions as we proceed through this or have some interaction. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Bell, if you could talk about a couple of capital projects around the county that people have asked questions about, namely the three-star mall and the health department.
Okay, well, the county's got a lot going on right now. Of course, we'll start out with the three-star mall that we bought a couple of years ago. We just got the bid awarded for Lois Fowler to actually do the construction on the health department. Within 365 days, it's supposed to be open. So about this time next year, we should be having a ribbon cutting out there for the health department if everything goes well. You know how this when you renovate, it could take us a little longer, but hopefully by next summer anyway, we'll be doing that. We've done a little landscaping out the mall to make before we cut the trees down. Everybody was excited about that. But we've also put on 2 brand new central heating air units on top of the common area, which were not working. We replaced those. And this year's budget, hopefully if it passes at the end of June, we're trying to put the money in there to actually pave the parking lot and stripe the parking lot back. That'll be done after we see that we're through doing any kind of construction work through the health department. They would have to tear up the parking lot. We don't want to pave it and have to tear it up to fix that. So that's some of the projects we got going on at the three-star mall right now. Then we've bought the property right next to the county building. We bought it last year, Mr. Slim Ingles' house who passed away. And you will see it actually demolished in the next couple of weeks. And that will be gravelled to make more parking at the administrative building. Because we actually do not, anybody that's been to our administrative building knows we've not got a lot of parking there. So we're looking to expand that into our parking. We also bought the fuel island behind Corner Market. I'm in the process now ordering our first loads of fuel. So we will buy our fuel at wholesale for our schools. So we're hoping to bring the schools on board, our sanitation, and our Sheriff's Department. All our county departments will get their fuel there at wholesale prices. And I hope to work with Mr. Chastain and maybe get the city on board. And maybe we can do some business with them. Well, we're coming to you because we get started, make sure we got everything working good. So we've got that project going. We also got the animal shelter that we run into a few snags on the animal shelter about getting bids in. We're getting some extreme bids on getting the roof put on, but we think we've got that worked out. We're ordering the materials to put the roof on. So all these projects we're working at the same time in the county. So I think the county's pretty busy right now.
All right, great. Thanks for that. Mayor Chastain, could you talk a little bit about capital investment in the city right now and what projects are going on there as well? Capital investment seems to be a hot topic for people in the community.
Yeah, like I had mentioned previously, the water plant. Water is an enterprise fund. We use the money that we selling water to people, essentially to fund that department. That water treatment plant is very dated. Everything in it is analog. This treatment plant will come into the digital age, finally be state-of-the-art for water treatment. Little known fact, kind of boring, but the city of McMinnville, despite its age facility, it has won a number of awards for best tasting water, not just in the mid-state, but in the entire state of Tennessee. But from a capital standpoint, I would say that's the biggest thing for the city right now. Again, we are putting concerted efforts into street paving and rehabilitation, as well as sidewalks, installing new ones, as well as fixing aged ones and some that are in various states of disrepair. Another project that's going to be done in conjunction with TDOT, it's not necessarily a capital investment, but it is good for the city as well as for the residents of McMinnville and Warren County, is a street light project that will update the lights and the timing of the lights all the way from near the hospital and the Three-Star Mall all the way down the bypass past Walmart. So I know that there are lots of concerns about the timing of those lights and some of the indicators. People get caught at one light and then they get caught at every single one going down the highway. So we look to mitigate that as well. But those are just a few things. But from a capital standpoint, again, that water treatment center rehab is the biggest thing for the city right now.
All right, thank you. Representative Cheryl, in the special legislative session earlier this year, you voted against the Education Freedom Act. Can you talk a little bit about what feedback or what questions or concerns you had that ultimately led you to vote against that act that was championed by Governor Lee?
Thank you. That was a very serious situation right there. I thank a lot of our governor, but I believe that the school vouchers is a bad thing. And I talked to the governor, I was in his office and talked with him about it. And, you know, we already have school choice. If you want to send your child to the public education, you can. If you want to send your child to the private school, you can. And that's what I tried to tell the governor. And I said, what about some of these other organizations that maybe if this is passed, they get to dip their hand into that pot, get some money out of it? Well, what do you think about the Muslims? Or what if there's an atheist school out here decides they want to participate in it? Some of these organizations, we don't want that to happen. I don't think it's a good thing. And I went to our superintendent school here in Warren County and White County, and they done a resolution asking me to vote no on it. And I had a number of people here in Warren County, White County, that asked me to vote against it. And I tried to do what the people asked me to do instead of what I was asked to do in name. Now, I still believe it's a bad thing. And yesterday, Senator Boland and I, we serve on GovOps. And the first topic that come up yesterday was about these school vouchers. Okay, $20,000 the first year. That's what you can ask for the first year, right? Mm-hmm. Well, there's already over 30,000 students been asked to go into these. So 20,000 would be next year. Then the next year would be 25,000. And then next year it'd be 30,000. And you get to figuring up $7,000 per student. That's quite a bit of money. And to me, it's taking money away from our public education. And I strongly believe that our public education needs to be first. If you want to send your child to a private school, that's your business. But the taxpayer should not have to pay for it. That's your choice. But we got to make sure we take care of our public education first. So I done hopefully what the people of Warren County and White County asked me to do, to vote no.
All right, thank you. Senator Boland, kind of the same question. I know you found yourself in the same boat. And if you could talk about that decision and also other opportunities you've had to reach across party line and maybe do something that your own party wasn't necessarily in favor of or wanted to.
Thank you very much. And I too voted no on the voucher bill. I studied it. I was a public educator 1 year when Tipple was in graduate school. My degree is special education. We've always been involved. He was on the school board. And we homeschooled our youngest child for 4 years. So I've been involved in recognized public education and private education and homeschool education. And what I saw in this legislation, though, was a lot of misinformation, because it was saying school choice. Everyone now has the freedom to choose. When you hear that, do you think that everybody can go and say, I want $7,000 to help my child go to private school? It sounds like it's universal. That's what that means. Well, in fact, as was just explained by Paul, it was $20,000 the first year. And I think you had to leave the room for a few minutes because it got really confusing there, and you might not have heard this part of it. I asked the question, when you're saying that you will allow $20,000 the first year, we've been told 13,000 of those will be children already in private school, and 7,000 will be those that are wanting to go to a private school. They said not necessarily. Well, that's not a concrete word, so I'm not sure what it means exactly, but 20,000 maximum the first year. Now, the next year, they will allow 5,000 additional if, in fact, all of the 20,000, 75% of them, if they are still needing the voucher the next year, they still have to get in line and put their name in the pot. Did you understand that? I mean, if you have set a course to send your child to this private school, you have the voucher the first year, but you didn't get drawn the second year, then it's all on you, which I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I'm saying that's not how the bill has been represented. The bill has been represented as one thing, and then they went on to say that there would never be in excess of 20,000. Well, each year then, the 5,000 has to be added if there's 75%. So if there's 25% room of the original 20,000, then they can add that other. And each year it's subject to available funds. And they had thought they were going to get the money out of the lottery. But it turned out that the lottery is not bringing in the money that it did bring in. So that's really, they're not having adequate funds for this in addition to what the lottery was originally designed to do. But now they have sports wagering. So my understanding is the first year this money will come out of an excess 20% that might exist in the sports wagering budget. That's not a guaranteed amount of money. And that's not a guarantee that other things aren't going to come on it. So what I told the governor when he asked me, why aren't you supporting my voucher fund bill? And I said, Governor, because it's predicated on misinformation. Bad root, bad fruit. There will be confusion, there will be misinformation, there will be a disruption of what people know there's to be, and I'm not going to support something where Tennessee is actually becoming the source of disruption and confusion and misinformation. And I don't think he liked my answer, but right offhand, I would say we've seen evidence for those of us that voted no. There's been some, I don't use the word retribution, but I used to say redheaded stepchildren, and that's kind of how we've been treated a little bit because of our no vote. But you have to vote according to the principles, according to what you're hearing from your district, and just like Paul too. I did additional investigation over what I was hearing from the district, but overwhelmingly the people in the district were opposed because the final point, Tennessee has 95 counties. Right now, I think there are 38 counties that are having people registered to go to the private schools. And because there are only 42 counties with private schools cannot be compelled to take the voucher child. And so even if they have them, they might be small Christian schools. They don't want to be opened up to take money from the state. So once you turn one corner of thinking you understand it, you find another question. And then you have to try to address that question. So when something is that difficult to explain and that difficult to understand and that difficult to implement, I think that we should have done our homework a lot better before we ever brought anything of that nature to the people.
All right, thank you both very much. We got some audience questions. We got a follow-up on the amendment issues that the audience are going to stay with you. There's a question about the process for the amendment. If the three amendments are voted on, yes or no, what happens after a yes vote? And could you play the process to the
When you will be on that ballot in November, when you're going to be electing the governor of the state of Tennessee as well. And you have to have a majority of the people who voted in the governor's race to vote yes for that to be implemented and become part of the Constitution. Now, a little bit of a tricky thing happened last time. And I won't get too far into these weeds because it was kind of interesting. A lot of people evidently did not want to vote for the incumbent governor, but they were voting in the governor's race. So the clarification of whether it meant, was it actually a majority of the people that voted for the governor in the governor's race, or the majority of the people that voted into the election that contained the governor's race? You see the difference with the distinction? And so it was definitely a majority of the people who voted were against it or for it, I don't even remember now. But the people were saying, oh, but you can't count that because it wasn't ones that voted specifically for the governor. So I think there was a ruling that said, no, it was in that race, the governor's race year, and not in the specific portion of the ballot that involved the governor. So that's how it's determined, though. It has to be majority in that governor's year race.
And once done, the legislature will go further action and simply ratification. All right. Mayor Chastain, you talked about street paving and the importance thereof. Could you talk about how street paving is prioritized? Who makes the decision and on what criteria, which streets are paved?
We have to partner with the state on that. There is basically an algorithm for it. And based on the results of that algorithm, we prioritize the streets. I guess the biggest part of that algorithm is the last time they were paid. So there's basically a rolling list, and once a street is paved, it's moved to the bottom of that list, and then streets are plugged into that same algorithm, and based on criteria, they move up and down. It's a little bit complicated, but essentially we just have a list based on high priority, medium priority, low priority, and go down the list as those streets are tended to.
All right. Another question about legislation that did not pass this past session. Could either of y'all speak a little bit about the proposed legislation to require English to obtain a driver's license? I know there was some discussion about the impact that would have on the trucking industry. Could you all, either of you, speak to that? Senator Rowland, did you sponsor that legislation?
I did. My legislation is quite simple. It said that if someone was pulled over by a trooper and it was found that they could not read enough English or answer enough questions in English to be considered literate at all in English, and yet they were driving an 18-wheeler down our highways. This said that the trooper would have the ability to take the license, and then there would be a coursework that had been described and created, that person would then have to be able to read and learn how to read certain signs in English, certain things in English, and before they would get their license back. Just show of hands, how many think that's common sense? That you want people who are in 18-wheelers to be able to read basic signs? Well, it was, I think it was defeated 7-2 in the Transportation Committee. They said, and this is the scariest part, if you pass this, you will put a lot of trucking companies out of business because they won't be able to get enough English-speaking drivers. I have since read that we are favoring not only Hispanic, but Eastern European drivers, that there's a large number of people from Eastern Europe who are now driving the trucks and who are not literate in English. But the good news is President Trump just signed a memorandum that said that all 18-wheeler drivers in the United States of America had to be literate in English. So let's give him a round of applause. I think public safety has to be considered in that equation. And truck company owners have to realize that they're responsible for their drivers being able to read and communicate in English.
All right, that covers all of the audience questions. I think we've worked through everything. If everybody wants to give these folks a round of applause.
Thank you all again for being here, and I'm sure if anybody has extra questions, they can always reach out. Is that correct? And we appreciate you being part of this breakfast, and thank you.